Yeah, cool. Thank you. So hello everyone. As you can see, my title maybe changed a little bit. So yeah, I'm from the Bern University of Applied Science, and together with Madeline and Peter, I'm in as part as the also as the AI for Soil Health Consortium. I'm in work package 3, where we look into and develop, um, yeah, or try to develop new soil health indicators. And in doing so, we thought, all right. Um, we thought it's worth looking at soil structure since it's actually linked to many processes in the soil. We heard already quite a few times how infiltration is affected, but there's many other processes like the carbon decomposition, greenhouse gas emissions, nutrient cycling, or even like when you look from the pore side, it can serve as a habitat for microorganisms inhabiting soil. So in general, you could say soil structure is linked to many processes that could describe soil health in some way, but still it hasn't been used so much because depending on what you look at, soil structure can be quite tricky to assess. So, for example, when you want to enter the voids, look at the pore space. For example, if you use imaging techniques like CT, it's super expensive. You need some technical knowledge on how to do it. Or, for example, hydraulic properties, it's super time demanding to get the whole, well, for example, water retention curve can take weeks. Then secondly, what you can do is like a visual assessment where you basically just break parts of the soil and look at the aggregates, which is fairly easy to do. Everyone could do that and learn that pretty quick. But obviously it's quite prone to subjectivity. So yeah, you can debate about it. And in general, you will always have this problem about when you take samples, how representative are those samples for a field or region, and does it make sense to scale it up? And so, in total, as to say, there's not one single method to fully capture the full picture of soil structure because it's actually so big and diverse. And so, this is where we try to start a little bit by trying to assess, well, soil structure in from different point of view, so to say. So what we're trying is to link several methods to make it, yeah, to make use of soil structure as a soil health and make use well, of it. Um, so what we're trying to do is so coming from the pore perspective by using X-ray CT to get the macropore structure of soils, then also to look at the aggregation and the aggregates by doing like visual assessment, as I said before, where you basically, yeah, just by hand break up the soil and look at the aggregates, and then also link it to the functionality of a soil by looking at the soil hydraulic properties. And well, we want not just to do it on arable land, but also to grassland and forest soils, because yeah, it reflects wide ranges of soils as well. And yeah, so we read that we can see differences between the land use types already. Then obviously we hope to see that those metrics that we derive from the CT, the pore structure, that it goes in line with the hydraulic properties, and also to make it really useful and hands-on approach. It would be nice to see, obviously, if we could link this visual assessment to extended lab measurements that we do. And so how did we approach this? We chose a site in the canton of Bern, close to where I live. Ah, ah. Um, so we chose three sites, one forest site, one grassland site, and one arable land site. And we knew from an already ongoing project that they had quite similar texture, as you can see here, just down here, to kind of not rule out, but well, make textual effects, let's say, at least as little as possible. And so what we did then, we went to every site. I took 4 topsoil samples. I did this visual assessment, and then with the soil samples I collected, I measured saturated hydraulic conductivity, and I did X-ray scans to assess the pore network, and then assess water retention curve and unsaturated hydraulic conductivity, and then finally got the base data, so pH, texture, and organic carbon. Um, so firstly for the visual assessments, because I know there's different methods that are all, well, similar, so to say. So basically what you do, you take a spade, you get some bulk of soil out of the soil ground, and then you break it apart by hand pretty gently, and you look at the following parameters that I marked here in red. So basically the size, the shape. Then you look at aggregates themselves, like the roots. How do they go through? How porous are those aggregates? And usually, what you would do it for the whole block you got out. But for me, since I was taking the samples from the upper 10 centimeters, and just to compare it with the metrics I got from the other measurements, um, we scored it just for the upper 10 centimeters. We score it accordingly from 1 being really good to 5 being really poor. And so, yeah, and based on this table, which is from Agroscope from a couple of years ago, this is how we did it. And usually you would not score every single parameter. You would take all of it and look in which score it would actually fit. But for us, for the beginning, we wanted to score every parameter just to see if it really fits. Um, then, so to assess the hydraulic properties, just quickly to show you. So this is a bit advertisement for the meter group. Um, so here's the cassette device that we use for saturated hydraulic conductivity using the falling head method. And then to assess the water retention curve and the unsaturated hydraulic conductivity, we use those high prop device and the WP4C. Yeah, and give a short impression about macro porosity, how we assessed it. You take a sample, as you can see here. You scan it, you get a picture that looks like this, and that you reconstruct. And then in the end, have like you can have a 3D picture of the macro porosity. Yeah. So, and then to show some first results, so to say. So if you look on the picture on the plot on the top left, that's a typical water retention curve. And it was actually already nice to see that we can see a clear difference between the forest soil here in green and the arable land and the grassland soil, seeing that the forest soil has a way higher porosity already, which is nicely also reflected if you look at the plot here just next to it. On the y-axis, we have the saturated hydraulic conductivity, and then on the x-axis, the macro porosity, which means in our case, there would be pores with a diameter of 91 microns. And it's actually nice to see that it goes well in line, that the higher the macro porosity is, the higher also is the saturated conductivity values. Yeah, it was just nice to see the first metrics that it matches. And also, if we compare grassland and arable land here in the top 2 plots, you can see that arable land has actually a lower porosity in total. But if you're looking at macro porosity, we do see that it's actually a little bit higher, even though it's just a bit. But yeah, it was nice to see that already. And then looking at unsaturated hydraulic conductivity here at bottom, yeah, we do see that forest soils is higher in the wet range, but as the soils dry, we do see that arable land actually has higher conductivity um, in the drier range. And then as the best comes in, we actually saw something where we thought at the beginning, it's interesting, because here this plot that you see here on the left, that's not mine. That was from an experiment done before by Alice Johannes et al. And there where they sampled just arable land on different textures, and there they could see quite a nice trend of bulk density going quite in line um, with West scores. And yeah, if you look at the plot in the middle, which is what we observed, it's actually quite different. That bulk density, like the higher the West score, the lower is the bulk density. And so we thought, okay, how could this be possible? How could this be explained? And then if you look on the plot to the very right, this is again the unsaturated hydraulic conductivity at the PF of 3, so in a already rather dry range. And so we have the idea perhaps that if the unsaturated hydraulic conductivity is higher in the dry range, that there might be better pore connectivity within the small aggregates. And so the question would be if VES might be even able to detect those little those networks, because here, this table that you see here, this is the single grades, the single scores we gave to the different land use type soils. And you do see for arable land, which is right on top, that so one being the best score, that arable land had actually the best porosity within the aggregate, and the best score when it comes to roots within the aggregate. And we thought that this might be actually quite nicely reflected within the unsaturated hydraulic conductivity. And yeah, that's something we found maybe VES would be even able to capture that. Yeah, so as a whole, I would say the framework overall is pretty time intensive, but actually it was quite nice just based on the few samples that we just have. You could already see some distinctions, which is really beautiful, I think. You could see differences between forest soils and the other soils, and you could also see that metrics from the CT were actually quite in line with metrics from the hydraulic properties. And yeah, as I just pointed out, that well, VES might be even, depending on how close you want to look at it, might be even able to capture like subtile structural attributes within the aggregates. And yeah, that would be something to follow up on. So this is what I've done partly, or what I plan on doing in the future. So what we're trying to do is to sample from the texture triangle from any texture class, uh, from any texture class, different land use types all over Switzerland, and process them, and hoping that we can, yeah, validate our framework, and then also being able to correlate the VES scores to hydraulic properties and CT metrics, so that we can, yeah, in the best case, use the visual assessment methods as a nice predictor for potential hydraulic properties or macropore structure. That's it. Thanks.